Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again. Video number 2. For everyone that watched the first intro video, thank you for the comments, thank you for the encouragement, for the prayers, we really appreciate it. And everyone who is viewing us for the first time, thank you and welcome.
We are so very excited to have the opportunity to be able to record these videos. We just hope and pray that you all are enjoying your new year thus far, that you are walking in your divine purpose, and that you are just ready to go higher in 2018. And you are being intentional about your life, about this walk, and just having great expectations for 2018. God is going to do some great things this year, so we're totally excited. We're so excited. And so today we're And so today we're gonna pretty much share our story. God put it on our heart for this message to just kind of go back a little bit and just share a little bit about us, our personal life, before we kind of get into more of the relationship aspect of
our personal. So just background on ourselves and things we kind of been through to where we got to the point where we met in life. Just some things about us that for people who don't know us, and just some things that we have dealt with and been through, just so you kind of know where we're coming from and know what we've stepped through individually before God brought us together. So we thought that was important to share. So based on what God was talking to us about, so we wanted to do that. And just, a little background just about us and these videos and why we're doing them. Before we were even married, God actually gave us faith and patience as our ministry. Like He said to us, this is your ministry. For my wife, faith. For me, patience.
And let me just say, we did not know what that meant, faith and patience.
Right.
But little did we know that we were going to be embarking on a journey that cultivated literally faith and patience within us.
Right.
And so,
And so, like, we learned more about what that meant specifically, which we'll get into other videos and stuff. But basically, about a year ago, last February to be exact, so almost a year ago, God gave us when patience met faith, and so that's kind of more of a deeper understanding of what God was saying to us and what it meant for our marriage and for our lives. And so when patience met faith is where we're at right now, why we started these videos and why we're moving forward with them. And just God wants us to share our story and our testimony and transparency about our lives. And so
and I just want to add, when patience met faith is a representation of when Dante met Michelle, basically.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for that clarification, really. So basically, just a little bit about our background. For me, specifically, I grew up, my grandmother raised me, and my mother was in and out of my life. My father was not in my life as a child. And so I grew up dealing with just specifically a lot of rejection. Like, rejection is like the foundation of the issues that I've had in my life growing up. Wanting to be accepted, wanting to be loved, wanting to have that traditional family unit, and pursuing that all up until when I met my wife. And in the actions and in the relationships that I pursued, that was kind of the crux of the things that I was looking for. And so even for me, I had this image in my mind, like, when I 21, 22, I want to be married and I want to have kids and I want to live this full life, because that was a representation of a full, fulfilling life for me. And so I pursued that in different relationships and different actions that I took going from my late teenage years to my 20s. That was driving me. I gave my life to the Lord when I was 17 years old. And even then, not too long after that, I got involved with a long-term relationship, and it really, drove me to a place where I was pursuing things and being involved with things that drew me away from the Lord. And not that I walked away or anything, but it took up so much of my time and of my life and consumed me so much that I ended up missing out on quite a bit, in my life. And so specifically for me, it led me to places where I was dealing, just addicted and dealing with pornography and lust and other things in my life that the Lord did not want me to go down. that I ended up pursuing because of my past. And so, God brought me through that, into my later in my 20s. God brought me through those things, healed me. I had to forgive quite a bit, forgive my mother, forgive my grandmother, forgive others that I felt hurt me or played a part in building upon the rejection that I had been dealing with. And so, meeting my wife and coming into this marriage, God's continuously working things out in me. But that's kind of where I come from. That's kind of what I was built upon, and what the Lord brought me out of. And as we go on, weeks go on, we'll get more into how this applies to our relationship and what we've dealt with in our marriage that has to do with the things in our individual paths and things like that. So we just wanted to share that, give you people who don't know us and people who do know us, a little refresher, but also people who don't know us, a background on some of the things and where we come from. And so that, someone hopefully is encouraged by that as a man. And even for women that see this are encouraged by this as well, that know that the Lord takes us, even though we've been through things, the Lord will bring us to where He desires to be based on the purpose and the plan that He has for us. And we should be encouraged, because where we used to be is not where we are right now, and where God wants to take us is not predicated on the things that we've been through. So that's just a little bit about me.
I think that's really awesome and very admirable, because I know it's hard to be vulnerable in that way, and men a lot of times are not vulnerable. It's hard for them to be open and to share and be transparent. So I think that's pretty awesome. For you to share. Thank you for that. Awesome. As for me, I grew up raised by my wonderful mother. Raised in a single parent household with my 2 older siblings. I was the baby within our household, and I had a pretty decent childhood. I had a good childhood. My mom was big on love and protection, and I'm so thankful for that. She was a nurturer in many ways, and she instilled so many great things in all of us, my siblings, that I'm so grateful for, because it's truly invaluable. But like every other household, there's things that I went through. My childhood was by far not a perfect childhood. I went through a lot of things. I saw a lot of things, experienced things, had to navigate through a lot of things. But I think the most, I think the greatest thing that has impacted me thus far was when I was 19. I entered into a very toxic, abusive relationship. It was pretty awful, I must say. And, something I should not have been in. But, sometimes at 19, we don't want to listen. We think we know it all. And in my case, actually, I felt like I had something to prove. There's some hurts and there's just some wounds that I had that stemmed from my childhood that, led me to a place where I felt like I had something to prove. And then, rebellion, set in. And that is what drove me. Like, those things are what drove me to make the decisions that I made. And so I landed myself in a very bad relationship. And I remember this day like yesterday. It was in 2001. And I remember I had moved out and moved in with this man, and we were living together. And I remember one morning I woke up and I was laying in the bed and I heard this whisper. And it wasn't just any whisper, it was the Lord. It was the voice of the Lord. It was so clear. I heard this whisper, and the whisper said, "Get up." And I remember looking around like, am I tripping? And I heard it again, "Get up." But it sounded more like, "Get up," just like that. And the Lord was telling me, get up, get your things, and get out. You don't owe this man anything. You don't owe him anything. Get up, get your stuff, and get out. And I kept hearing that over and over and over again. And I heard in the whisper, I heard the Lord say, if you don't leave, you're going to end up with children. You're going to end up abused, and your life is going to be hell. I remember those three things. And I remember just suppressing it. And in that moment, rebellion, feeling like I had something to prove, carried more weight than the voice of the Lord. And so I suppressed it, and I did not get up. I stayed. And I kept hearing the Lord say, get up, get up, get up, get up. And he just faded out. And I remember I just laid there. And shortly after that, everything that God spoke to me that day began to unfold. Everything that he spoke, it began to happen one by one. And two of the things that came out of that situation were my beautiful girls, our beautiful daughters. And they're such a blessing. They're two amazing girls. But I will say that it was hard. As much as a blessing they are, it was such a hard journey raising two girls. And, along with that came abuse, mental, physical, emotional, manipulation. I mean, it was crazy. And I stayed in it for a long time. And I remember in 2005, I was 7 months pregnant, and the Lord came to me again, and the Lord said, if you do not leave, if you do not get out, this relationship is going to be the death of you. And I remember having a dream, going to sleep, and dreaming about me dying. And in this dream, God, it was so specific, like how I died. And it was so devastating, like to see this dream play out, to see my family impacted. I mean, it was serious. And I remember waking up from this dream, and I remember thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh. And I remember looking out the window early that morning and just kind of weighing things out. And I remember saying to myself, to stay here, you know what to expect. If you stay here, you know exactly what to expect, because nothing's going to change. Things are going to continue to play out how they've been. But to leave is to face the unknown. And I was terrified. Because I'm 7 months pregnant. I have a two-year-old daughter. I had quit my job. I was on leave, maternity leave from Gene Juarez. And I'm thinking, life was very comfortable, very, very comfortable. So I'm like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? But I knew that I had to do something, because the Lord came to me in 2001, now 2005. And I'm like, this is not a game. And I said, God, if you create an exit for me, I will go, I will leave, and I will never, ever look back. If you create an exit for me, because I'm like, I didn't have the means to just get up and go, and, of course my family, my mom's doors were always open, but, pride, I didn't want to go back with 2 kids pretty much. So I'm like, God, just if you make a way for me, if you open up a door, I will leave. I promise, and never look back. And so 4 months later, when my youngest was 2 months old, God opened the door, and I walked out of it and closed it behind me, and I never looked back. And I don't even know, when I look back over that season, I don't even know how I made it through it. I mean, I know how I made it. It was God's hand on my life, and his grace and his mercy. Like, God's hands was so on my life, because he took me through that season, and it was so hard. And I just remember his favor. Because as every door opened, it's like God was shutting every door behind me to where I couldn't go back. I could have went back, but he shut it to where I did not go back, because he kept opening doors. And it's crazy, because I tried to bring other people through those same doors, and they were shut. It was like God had it specifically designed for me. It's almost like he wanted me to know, I'm doing this for you. I am a God of my word. I'm doing exactly what I said I would do. Continue to trust me and move forward. And that's what I did. And it was not easy. I battled depression for a long time. I battled torment. I battled suicidal thoughts. I mean, it was just crazy what I had to walk through because of the choice that I made, you know. But what I can say is God yet and still was with me. Like, he never left or forsaken me. He never left my side. You know, there's things that I had to walk it out. I had to do the work. I had to walk through it, but God was there every step of the way. And so from that point, you know, I was able to, you know, get my own place and just kind of get on my feet. And, you know, I was attending a church at that particular time, and I had met Dante's cousin, and I remember she was inviting me to her church. I was inviting her to my church, and I ended up going to their church. And that's when that was the beginning of my life really changing, because I was like in Christ, but I was like, you know, one foot in, one foot was out the door. But this was the beginning of my life changing and a relationship being developed with God like no other. And the beginning of our journey. I attended the church in 2005, and 2006 I had joined, and me and Dante became friends, and I'll let you take it.
So the story about, so we had met, cousin introduced us, just met, and that was that. But a couple months later, Easter of 2006, we had a play, because we do plays at our church occasionally during these type of events and stuff. And so we did a play called Left Behind, that was about the rapture. And so I had a scene where I had to wake up, and I was hysterical because I had a dream about the rapture and about all my family being taken and things of that nature. So for me, I had to wake up, I had to be emotional, hysterical, and dramatic, and all that type of stuff. And so I did plays for quite some time, being there. And so something I was used to, acting. And so my wife had a similar role.
Which was, I played a wife. First of all, this was my first time acting, and I was totally scared. And being amongst veterans,
scared is an understatement.
Yeah, and being amongst veterans was kind of intimidating, because they just went in, did their thing, they just kind of flowed. And I'm like, how do you guys do this? Like, how do you just lose yourself in this role, and you're able to like let go and just have all these different emotions and expressions? And for me, I played a wife, and I think we had a child, and basically I was a bad wife. And so I came home from work.
A bad wife.
I came home from work one day, and my family had the rapture had happened, and my family was gone, clothes left on the floor. So if you can imagine coming home from work and your entire family's gone, and you're left behind because you didn't live your life according to the will of God, or, you know, however, and you were left behind and your family was gone. And so, yeah.
And so you had to act as if I acted the same way.
Yeah.
Dramatic, emotional, all those type of things. So we had a conversation afterwards, and she was asking for tips and things of that nature. And so we ended up exchanging numbers. She says I gave my number to her.
He did.
But
absolutely,
to each his own.
Absolutely.
We exchanged numbers, but she called me first.
Absolutely
and,
not.
We started talking about the Lord back and forth in our conversations. Yeah. And, over about a year, we became closer. And so around a year is around that time where the Lord started speaking to me specifically about her. So, and as we go along in the different videos and stuff, we'll talk about that where it's applicable. But we do in our next video want to talk about the 7-year wait, the time frame between when God really spoke to me about her being my wife and when we got engaged, and things that happened in that avenue. And so anyways, we just want somebody to be encouraged by our story, the things we've been through individually, and where God brought us to even up to this point. And so we hope that anyone is dealing with these things or has dealt with those things in the past or can identify with it, knows how God moves and knows how God moves in people in our lives can share a similar story. We hope you're encouraged as well. So we just wanted to share that with you guys as a short background. And yeah, just thank you guys for listening. Please comment if you have questions, if you have prayer requests, if you have conversations, anything that you want to share. Feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to send us a Facebook message. You can shoot us an email as well. We have an email. It's dante.michelle@whenpatiencemetfaith.com. That's DONTAEE.MICHELLE@whenpatiencemetfaith.com. Send us an email. We'll answer questions, all that good stuff. So continue to pray for us on this journey.
And if you don't mind, I just want to really quick add, if you feel led to ask a question, whether it may be by way of comment or email, we just want you to know that we're on an assignment and we are here for this. There are no secrets. We are here to be transparent, and anything you feel you want to ask, feel free to do so. Feel free to ask anything. Yeah.
Gives a little bit more detail about what we wanted to do here, and as the videos go along, we're trying to release them every Monday as best we can. And yeah, just like, comment, share, and keep us in prayer. And I hope you're encouraged. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, wonderful week.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening.
Peace.
Bye-bye.